I don't know who is in charge right now. I don't know if it's the government, if it's the elites, but whoever's in charge needs to stop lying to the American people, okay? Because the American dream is not dying because we are all getting lazy out here. It is dying because people are out here working harder than ever. I mean, these people are literally breaking their backs and somehow ending up with less. It doesn't make sense, okay? The deal that we were promised was if we worked hard, if we, didn't go to jail, eventually, we'll be able to build a good life for ourselves. But freaking America over here changed the freaking price after everybody signed the contract. Like, we literally got scammed.
It shouldn't be controversial for me to say that if you're working full time, it should at least cover your basic life, like rent, food, bills, and have money left over. And for a lot of people right now, that's not even realistic. So what are we even actually working for?
Hot take, I don't think anyone should have to work full time ever. Literally ever, to make a living. I think people should only work full time if they want to live in excess and live a life of luxury. I think people should be able to work part-time, and that should be enough to sustain normal living. I think there is no reason why everyone should have to work at least 35 hours a week to meet the bare minimum for, like, living requirements. Sorry, no. I think literally 15 to 25 hours should be enough to sustain a completely independent life. I don't think that's so crazy. Why do we need to work so fucking much? And again, it's not like, oh, well, then nothing's ever going to get done because no one's ever going to work. No, because a lot of people still would like to live in excess. A lot of people would like to go on lavish vacations, have a really nice house, a really nice car, really nice clothes, really nice jewelry, etc., etc., etc. I think that lowering the bar for how many hours people should be able to live off of, I don't think that's going to change that people who work full-time will work full-time, because the people who work full-time, I don't know.
The dumbest thing about working full-time is that you never have time to do anything. Like, when you need to do something and you finish at 5 o'clock, everything's shut, so you have to wait until the weekend, but most things aren't open on the weekend, so you can't do it then either. So you're kind of just fucked forever.
The real economic crisis is not unemployment. It's the fact that people are working full-time jobs and still can't afford basic life. In this economy, you're better off just being unemployed because at least you have some free time. Us people who work full-time jobs can't afford life and we have no time.
Listen to what these people are saying, okay? They have a job, more than likely. They are showing up, they are putting in the work, they are doing exactly what they need to do, and it still isn't enough. That's the part that people keep ignoring. Whenever somebody struggles, society immediately starts interrogating them, right? Like, what do you do for work? Or, how many hours are you putting in a week? Did you get another job, like a side hustle? Another job, man? How many jobs does one person supposed to work before we finally admit that something is broken out here? People are waking up before the sun even comes up. They're coming home exhausted, man. They're watching their entire paycheck go down to zero before they even get a chance to enjoy it. Rent will take a big chunk of it. Groceries will take another. Car insurance takes another. The electric bill will take another. And whatever's left just gets destroyed by, one unexpected expense that you forgot about.
So there was a point where I looked around and thought, wait a minute, is this actually the life I chose? Or is this just the life I slowly accepted? Because nobody wakes up one day and says, I can't wait to feel trapped for the next 25 years. Nobody dreams about being on call or working OT. Nobody dreams about sitting in traffic for an hour each way every day, living for Friday, dreading Sunday night, and counting the years until retirement. But somehow that becomes normal. You go to work, you pay the bills, you handle the responsibilities, you do what you're supposed to do. And everybody tells you that's just life. But something inside you keeps asking, is it though? And if you've ever had that thought but felt guilty for thinking it, you're not alone.
A lot of people are just surviving and not living. Like, a lot of people wake up the next day stressing about yesterday. Stressing about, oh, all right, well, I ate yesterday. I got to figure out how I'm going to eat again today. Or, you know, I paid the bills this month. I gotta run it back up. I gotta go DoorDash. I gotta go Uber. Then I gotta go to work for fucking 60 hours to make ends meet. And to whom this concerned, like, you might be tired of me making a video like this every now and then, but I'm gonna keep making them because I'm tired of people suffering in silence, fam. Our parents always grew up telling us we want you to be better than us. Mom trying. Like I'm doing my best. You feel me? This, like, life didn't get easier since I became an adult.
Most people aren't even living, they're just kind of existing. They've been conditioned to believe that working a 9 to 5 is the only path to success, but it's really not. In school, I feel like we were told to trade our time for a paycheck. Daily commute, office cubicles, dressing up for work, all of that. Like right now, entrepreneurship, remote jobs, that's kind of what's in. And if this is the first time you're hearing about it, I suggest you really look into it. First time I heard about something like this was probably about like a year and a half ago. Literally changed my life. A year ago today, if you asked me what I'd be doing today, I'd probably be applying for jobs at Google or a hedge fund, something like that. But now I'm making $20K a month, working from home for 3 to 4 hours a day, and I'm still in college right now. If you want a little bit more information on exactly what I do, there's a free PDF in my Instagram bio.
Hey, yo, most people not living, they just existing. They wake up, they go to work, they pay bills. The same routine every day. See, that's not life, that's survival. See, living is making moves that scare you a little bit, or cutting things off that no longer serve you, or choosing peace even if it costs you your comfort. See, a lot of folks stay stuck because existing feels safe. See, but safe ain't fulfilling, and comfort ain't purpose. So I need you to be real with yourself. Are you chasing life, or are you maintaining pain that you already know? Because at some point, you're going to have to make a decision whether you're going to continue existing or you're going to start living.
This life that people are living nowadays isn't even living. This is just financial life support. Millions of people are not even building wealth, okay? They're not traveling. They're not buying houses. They're not starting families. Heck, they can't even do what they're passionate about on the side. They are simply just trying to survive until the next paycheck arrives. And then people wonder why everybody just looks tired. Everybody just looks angry in the face. All of a sudden, people got no energy. People are tired because their entire life has become maintenance, okay? Maintaining the apartment, maintain the credit score, the car, the job that barely pays enough to maintain everything else. And the moment that you fall behind, everybody will act like it's just some personal, failure. You'll start thinking to yourself that, hey, maybe you just, need to cut down on the Starbucks. You probably ate at a restaurant too many times, or, you shouldn't have subscribed to that Netflix, you know what I'm saying? But meanwhile, a basic house will cost you more than many people will earn in several years. But yeah, man, let's just go ahead and blame that Starbucks coffee that's probably $5.
Why was buying a house so much easier for our parents than it is for us? I'm gonna try and answer this as simple as possible, and no, the answer isn't just inflation. 50 years ago, you could buy a house on a single income, and today, 2 incomes combined barely even qualify for a mortgage. In the 1970s, the average UK house cost around 3 to 4 times the average salary. But today, it's around 8 times. And in London, it's nearly 12 times. But it isn't just wages. We're simply not building enough homes. The UK needs around 300,000 new homes per year, but we're barely hitting that target. Meanwhile, the population keeps growing, and if you know a thing or two about economics, you know what happens when demand massively outpaces supply. And also, one of the biggest factors is that houses started to become investment vehicles. Buy-to-let landlords and foreign investors started buying up properties and treating them like stocks instead of homes, which drove the price up even more and took homes away from first-time buyers. Finally, years of record low interest rates made borrowing cheaper, which meant that more people had access to mortgages, which pushed prices up even more. And then sellers just kept raising prices because they knew that buyers had access to more credit. And here we are today. So if you feel like it's taking you forever to save up for something that your parents got quite easily, don't worry, you're not alone. It's literally most of us. Stay lively.
So back in the day, our parents used to be able to afford a house with only one income. Now we can't even afford it with two. Back then, a house used to run you between 100 and maybe 300,000, given the type and size of house that you wanted. Now, you can't even find a house for $300,000 in certain areas, and they go all the way up to $1 million for the same property that would probably be max $400,000 back in the day. And then let's talk about the wages and the inflation. Inflation has gone up so much since 2020 that it's insanity to me. And the wages has not gone up the same, specifically. Especially back then. Your wages was able to get you an apartment or a house if you wanted to with the right prepping and planning. But now, even with the right prepping and planning, you're barely making it for a rental or for a mortgage. And then the housing market is just trash. The fact that they're not building any more single-family houses as they used to, and they're building up apartment complexes, you can already see where this is going. And now it's just harder to build wealth. I mean, you see everything going up around us, so when is the fuck you gonna have the time to save? But let's be honest here. Do you actually think that we're gonna go back to affordable housing? I don't think so. Per se, for me at least.
If I hear one more person ask why millennials aren't buying houses, let me tell you why millennials aren't buying houses. Because me and my fiance qualify to rent a house where the rent is $2,000 a month. We pay $2,000 a month consistently, one time, without fail. But a bank will tell us that we don't qualify to buy a house, that the mortgage is $1,500. And then a country that is trillions of dollars in debt will have the nerve to tell me that my credit score isn't good enough to buy said house. Not to mention that same house that our parents or grandparents paid $180,000 to $200,000 for. Yeah, that's now a $400,000 to $500,000 house. And in a world where it's impossible to save money because we literally have to use every dime of every paycheck that we make currently in our current living situation just to survive, no one has $50,000 to put down on a house. So in a world where we would love to own a home, with a $1,500 mortgage, we're forced to rent a house for $2,000 because, again, a bank's going to tell me I can't afford the $1,500 mortgage. Make it fucking make sense.
One thing I cannot get over about this entire thing is home ownership, okay? This is what makes people really angry, all right, y'all? Previous generations were told to work hard so they could buy a house, and they could do it very easily off of one income, by the way. Yet people are over here paying thousands of dollars every month to live somewhere that they will never, and I mean never own. And when they finally save a little bit of money, the down payment moves further away because these houses are going up in value. The interest rate's going to change, the home price will increase, property taxes, don't even get me started on that. The insurance, renter's insurance, the goalpost just keeps on moving for us. And then older people stand on the other side asking why young adults such as myself haven't really crossed that line yet. It's because the bridge was pulled up behind you. Listen, man, you cannot compare today's economy to the economy that you entered decades ago and pretend the opportunities are identical to you guys. They are not.
So we're going to talk about what I feel like is one of the biggest flaws to the education system. So school's supposed to prepare you for life, right? But we're not being taught the things that actually determine whether you succeed or struggle. And this is something that I wrote about a few years ago, and I ended up making a list of things that I feel like people should be being taught in school to allow us to be successful. Because schools don't really teach you how to live. They teach you how to memorize. You're taught, take your notes, study for your tests, pass your standardized exams, and then move on, right? And your end goal is almost always the same. They want you to go to college, right? And while college can be a great option for some people, for a lot of people, it comes with tens of thousands of dollars in debt that will follow people for decades. And then you end up right where they want you, stuck in the working middle class, paying off that debt. And what's interesting is some of the most successful people in the world, most of them, didn't go to college, which kind of raises that question of like, what are we actually missing? We're not being taught financial literacy, how credit works, how interest builds, how people get trapped in debt, how to manage your money in a way that actually builds stability. We're not being taught media literacy. AI is terrifying. You need to know how to tell if something is reliable or propaganda, how algorithms shape what you see, how misinformation spreads. We're not being taught real world civics. We're just memorizing branches of government, but you need to know how laws actually affect your daily life, how local decisions impact your cost of living, and what your rights actually are. We're not being taught workers' rights and adult survival skills like how to read a lease, what your employer can and cannot legally do, how to understand your paycheck, how to negotiate your pay. We're not being taught emotional intelligence and mental health, like how to communicate effectively, how to set boundaries, how to recognize manipulation and manage your stress levels. We're not being taught critical thinking, how to question information, form your own conclusions, recognize bias instead of just repeating what you're being told. Because at the end of the day, school teaches you how to pass, not necessarily how to navigate real life. And those are two very different skill sets.
This might be pessimistic, but I feel like everything around us is moving like way too fast, and then like everything else isn't evolving accordingly, so then it just kind of leaves you in a position of like nothing you will ever do can necessarily satisfy what you need to have to survive in this world. Like, okay, I want to talk about it from an education standpoint, right? But let's say, for example, like high school. If you know me, I'm very picky with time. If I don't feel like my time is being like valued somewhere, then like I'm gonna leave. So I graduated high school early. I was always ahead. I felt like I was literally getting nothing from like high school anymore. And just because like at least at my high school, like I felt like I wasn't getting like any life lessons. I had really good classes, like I had really good AP classes and stuff like that, and IB classes that I feel like prepared me for like college level work. But as far as like life skills and I feel like things that I needed in life, I'm spending all this time here and it's like for what? And then even like now, school still refuses to evolve. They're still teaching you the same things that they taught a long time ago. And really, if you ask me, I feel like at least like 2-3 classes out of like a high school day, if you're gonna have students there for like 7 to 8 hours, should be teaching them about everything that's going on in the world, should be teaching them about the economy, should be teaching them about how to build credit. I don't know if I'm the only person that like didn't get that, but yeah, so still it's not evolving at the same pace because really now you're gonna throw kids out here who really don't know anything about the world unless their parents taught them, which a lot of people don't have parents. Even parents, a lot of them are still figuring it out themselves because everything's changed so fast, everything's so expensive now, so it's kind of like you're not even putting a foot or an inch to try to help anything. And then like even with now that I'm in college, no, I'm not telling you not to go to college. I think everybody should go to college if they can. That's just what I stand on. But I will say that I do get a little bit frustrated because I know that there are a lot of great opportunities in college, but ultimately college is still trying to mold you into fitting into someone's company, into fitting into someone who already established something. They're trying to like fit you in that bubble, right? I feel like when my mom graduated, like obviously it wasn't perfect, but I feel like she thought that like, you know, she was like pretty much set. Like, okay, well, I got my degree, and then she went to go get her master's a little bit later, so it's kind of like, okay, like I'm set, like I'm good. But I feel like now, even when I do get to the point of like graduation, I'm gonna be happy to say I'm a degree woman. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I'm not gonna feel super satisfied in the aspect of like, yes, now I get to have this degree and work in a career. And even if I land a really good, high-paying career, I can never fully feel stable in my career because for one, people get let go all the time. So there's so many people, I've seen so many stories, so many things where like people have been in their field for like so many years and they got let go and they weren't able to find a job and they like made all this money and then they had to like go back and then just like start over. It's like even when you get a job, there's still not a sense of security within that. Even when you get a degree, there's still not even a sense of security in the aspect of like where the entry level jobs. I'm a positive person. Like, I think I'm gonna be cool no matter what, but I'm just saying, I just feel like all those dynamics and all those factors just prevent me from being able to even feel like happy with like any type of like accomplishment, I say, because I often like do things and I'm just like, okay, like that's done, on to the next thing. And maybe that just comes with like trying to like practice gratitude, but at the same time, like with the way the world is right now, yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but from the time you're about 5-6 years old to the time you get to be about 18 years old, you spend in the public education system, okay? Some people went to private school, yeah, okay? Tell me how much better your education turned out than mine. It didn't turn out any better. I would know. I went to private high school. My education, I think, was actually worse than those who went to public school. And I went to private school. $60,000 a year private school. Okay, thank you. But you spend all of this time learning and going through the motions every single year of your childhood. You learn what the primary colors are. You learn how to add, subtract, multiply, divide. You learn what fractions are. When you get a little older, you learn the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Then you get a little older, you learn what the Emancipation Proclamation was. And then finally, you graduate supposed to be understanding calculus. And you have all of this shit just floating around, taking up space in your head. Okay? All of this basically useless information. Never once in my life have I needed to divide a fraction. I've never had to divide a fraction. I've been an adult for a while now, for a few years. I've been an adult. I've never had to divide a fraction. And I worked in mathematics. I worked at a job that required me to use math every single day. And I never once divided a fraction. But anyway, the final 4 years of your time in the American education system, you are pushed and pushed and pushed. That the only thing that matters at the end of this is college. Nothing else matters. The only thing that matters is you going off to a 4-year school and getting a degree. So for 4 years of your life, everyone is putting pressure on you that you have to go to college. Because if you don't go to college, you're going to turn out to be nothing. Nothing. So what do? Throughout those 4 years, you spend an immense amount of time trying to figure out what it is that you want to do. You're 16 years old. You're trying to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. until you're fucking 65. At 16 years old, between 16 and 18, you have to figure out what you want to do until you turn 65. But in some states, at 16 years old, you can't even drive. But you have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life. At 16 years old. Okay. So, when you're 16, between 16 and 18, you make the choice. Okay, you figure out what you want to do in life. You pick out some colleges that have good programs for that type of field. You go through the motions, you apply to colleges, you get rejected, you get accepted, you get waitlisted, whatever. You settle on a college. Your parents put you through school, whether it be your parents paid for it, they helped you pay for it, you had to get student loans, you did it all by yourself, whatever. Doesn't matter. Somehow, one way or another, you make it through 4 years of college and you get out and you have a degree. Okay? So finally, this is the first time in your life, when you graduate college, is the first time in life where you actually get to be a real adult. Because you're no longer under the supervision of anyone else anymore. Standard. Okay? Sure, some people have to move back with their parents, but we'll get to that. You get out and you're finally an adult, right? You're in your early 20s and you're like, yeah, I've been through so much. I can do it. I can do life. I can do everything. So now it's time to get a job with that fancy 4-year degree that you just got. You're applying to jobs. One after another. Job. You either hear back nothing or you get rejected. But you probably hear back nothing. You take interview after interview after interview. You get nothing. You don't get a call back. You don't get anything. So now you're a year out of college after having spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this 4-year degree that everyone told you, if you don't get that 4-year degree, you're going to turn out to be nothing. You're going to turn out to be a homeless crackhead on the side of the road if you don't get that 4-year degree. But now you're a year out of having that 4-year degree and you still don't have a job. You might live with your parents. You might be working minimum wage jobs just to be able to afford the place that you live. You are forced into the cycle that everyone else has been through for so long. And then you get to be an adult. And you realize you don't know anything about being an adult. You don't know how to do your taxes. Some of us don't know how to make doctor's appointments. You don't know how to get health insurance. You don't know how to do those things. Some people may want to go out and buy a car and they go into a car dealership and they're talking to you all these fancy number terms and you have no idea what the words mean. That is the reality for many people out there. Because you are taught in school bullshit. You're taught absolutely useless fucking information. Once again, I've never had to divide a fraction a day in my life. But for some reason, you're pushed through school having to learn all of this math and science and all of this other stuff that you're never going to use again. Never going to use again. But yet, people still can't write checks, balance a checkbook, count paper money. We don't know how to do that. But yet, we're forced to go through school from ages 5 to 18, and then from 18 until you're about 22, you're forced to go through 4 years of college. And then when you get out, you're thrown out into the world with absolutely no idea how to get through it.
And then you got the school system, especially college. 4 years, man, for a long time now, young people were told to go to school, get that degree, get good grades, if you don't want to struggle for the rest of your life, or if you don't want to work at McDonald's. I'm sure we've all heard that saying before. These people took that advice seriously, you know what I'm saying? These people borrowed thousands of dollars, right? They got the books, they studied, they even graduated, and then they entered a job market asking for 5 years of experience for an entry level position, paying barely enough to even cover their rent. Yeah, they have the degree, sure, but now you got the debt and they don't even have the stability that they were promised. And instead of admitting that the system oversold the value of the college path, people will shame the graduates for believing the advice the adults give them, which doesn't make sense at all. But at the end of the day, guys, on a serious note, the American dream was never supposed to mean becoming rich overnight. Like, we understand that. For most people, it meant something more simple than that. It meant that you would get a safe place to live, a job that paid the bills, enough time to enjoy your family, the ability to handle an emergency without your entire life just collapsing, man. And the belief that your children might have more opportunities than you did. These are the things that people feel are slipping away. So when you hear Americans online out here complaining about the economy, I want you to understand what you are really hearing from these people. You're not hearing laziness. You're not hearing disappointment. You are hearing people who did what they were told. They put in the work, and then they discovered that the reward had disappeared at the finish line. They held up their end of the bargain. They worked, they sacrificed, they waited, man. They waited so patiently, dog. And now they're asking a completely reasonable question, by the way. Where is the life we were promised? Because right now, for millions of regular Americans, the American dream doesn't feel like a dream. It just feels like a bill that you will never finish paying off.